Hey guys, welcome back. I'm happy to be joined by Mike Hogan with Chimney Rock Mortgage. We'll get to an intro with him here in just a moment, but we're here to give you an update on the real estate market for the month of July. We're also going to cover some mortgage rates and talk a bit about the cost of waiting. And if you stick around till the end, might be a little longer video. We're going to have a breakdown of the NFC West because myself as a 49ers fan, I feel pretty confident. Mike's a Seahawks fan, false confidence.
We'll see.
But yeah. So, Mike, why don't you start by introducing yourself? How long have you been in the real estate mortgage business, and a little bit about yourself?
Well, like you said, my name's Mike Hogan with Chimney Rock Mortgage. It'll be 17 years in September that I've been doing mortgages, all here in Spokane.
Yep.
So I think I'm becoming an old timer all of a sudden.
Yeah. And I think we've probably seen you on TV a few times.
And I have been on TV a few times.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today. And so we're going to go a little bit over the real estate market for the month of July. Surprisingly, we've seen price stability. If you look year over year, the real estate market is down 1%, pretty much across the board in the markets that we operate. So not terrible, not a lot of inventory, still plenty of demand, even though rates are hovering in the 6.75 to 7.25. We are seeing the velocity of sales slow down a bit. Year over year, we're down a little over 20%. And we're seeing that kind of like rolling into the pending as well. So house is still sitting on the market for longer days on market, although that's pretty relative. I mean, I think when I first got into real estate about 12, 13 years ago, it was like 90 to 100 days on market was the average. And right now we're sitting at like 28, 29 days on market. So if you look at today's market versus where it's been, it's still a really solid fundamental real estate market of not enough inventory, still plenty of demand. And I think we both anticipate that that's going to continue to move forward like that, regardless of rates.
There's no question. I mean, housing is not exempt from supply and demand. And currently we don't have enough supply and we have plenty of demand for houses. And that can continue to grow. I mean, you could read statistics both locally and nationally that said we don't have enough housing and we're not building enough housing. So, the inventory issue is going to continue to keep, real estate stable and appreciating, I think.
Yeah, and I think like nationally, there was positive news out of like the new construction starts where, it was a pretty big, I want to say like 25 to 27% jump in new housing starts. Which put our national inventory up to about, I think, 1.6, 1.7 million homes. But statistically, we need to do that every month for the next 5 years just to meet like today's demand. And that doesn't even take into consideration population growth and people not wanting to rent anymore and all that. So,
well, I think locally some of that increase is, I was talking to someone just last night that works with a builder, and they had kind of slowed their building down last November, December, January, just to kind of figure out, where we were going. And now all of a sudden they're ramped right back up and going as fast as they can.
Yeah. So let's flip over to mortgage rates. I mean, what's new and exciting there, if anything? Is there still?
Oh, I mean, I guess if you consider rates at what, for a lot of us would be a lifetime high of 7%. I mean, it certainly isn't for our parents' generation.
Yeah.
But yeah, rates are high. Rates tend to be high because inflation's high. And hopefully inflation will start to soften and rates will come back down. I mean, I think the thought process of rates going to 3% like they were COVID is, an unrealistic rate. Probably would have been, without COVID, we'd probably be at 5% today anyway. That's probably where the market went. But when we spent as much money as we did as a country, we caused inflation to happen, which has driven rates up.
Yeah.
And now every rate, because even borrowing costs for everything is going up as Federal Reserve Bank's trying to tamp down inflation.
So is it more important to look at like the Fed raising interest rates, or is it more important to, as a consumer making a decision to look at inflation? Which one of those are
if you're tracking mortgage rates, I would track inflation more likely than I would Federal Reserve rate. They do, tend to work in tandem, but there have been times where the federal funds rate was 5.5% and the interest rates were, mortgage interest rates were 5.5%. So, I mean, it's more has to do with inflation, and part of what the Fed Reserve rates is, the Fed tends to react to older news where the markets tend to look forward. So your financial markets would include bonds, which drive mortgage rates, are looking forward, where the Fed tends to be looking back. So rates could come down, mortgage rates could come down actually faster earlier than the federal funds rate.
Mm-hmm. And in your experience, like if the market's looking forward and they're forecasting, like what are you seeing right now with regards to that forward-looking view?
Well, I think if you look at it, most people think inflation, while the inflation numbers that came out this week seemed as they went up, part of that challenge is inflation numbers are based upon a 12-month average. Last July, the inflation was 0. So even though inflation month over month's been the same for the last 5 months, it looked like it ticked from 3 to 3.2. It's because it's looking back 12 months.
Yeah.
So I think, but inflation is still stubborn right now.
Yeah.
And it's, there's so many different CPI, core, and all these things. But the one that's really interesting, if you look at it, in the one inflation number, 90% of it's housing. So if you look at it, that means housing is continuing to go up, which is the trend. Kind of what we're talking about is I don't think housing prices are going to drop, right? So therefore, housing or rents, so housing has continued to be stable. And I think that's one reason why waiting to buy a house if you think rates are going to get better, actually, because if housing appreciates and the rates get better, you're probably worse off than you would have been if you bought when rates were higher.
Yeah, talk to them about that just a little bit, in the sense that we just went over year housing numbers, and there's very little change, if any, in the price of a home over the last 12 months. And so if inflation goes down, and we're talking about the cost of waiting for an event to happen that's just perfect. Rates go down, prices go down. I don't know that that's ever happened before, but
I don't know that it ever has happened at the same time either, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think that even if you think housing is going to continue to appreciate at 4% in this market, which, we've been flat, but 4% is a pretty normal historic average. For every $100,000 you're looking at purchasing, you're probably going to lose $5,000 a year in the fact that the house is going to appreciate. Plus, you're not paying down the amortization on your note, which is kind of forced savings if you think about it. So, and for every 100,000, you might be looking, if interest rates say we're at 7 and they went to 6, of saving $50 a month maybe, but that's $500 a year to save to lose $5,000 in net worth. So it really, to me, there is a true cost of waiting.
Well, I don't think anyone watching or anyone in their right mind, and maybe this is just my opinion, would invest $500 to lose $5,000.
No, it usually go the other way around. If I could give you $500 today and you give me $5,000 tomorrow, I'd write the check, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, so the opposite should be true too, right?
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So and I guess kind of what you're getting at is, if it's a $500 investment, because it's a change in the way that we're allocating discretionary money. Like, do we take that $500 a year and go to Starbucks every day? That might be once a month. I don't know.
Right.
But or do we invest it in something that has the opportunity to gain and get a return? And $500 for $5,000, I don't think anyone would be like, no, that's a terrible investment.
No, it's a great investment, right? I mean, and historically speaking, real estate is always appreciated. And I know I was in the business when real estate went down, but I also know I bought my house in 2005, and if it wasn't at the peak, I could see the peak from there. And there was a time my house was probably worth less than I paid for it, but I've lived there now 17 years, and it's worth a lot more.
Yeah.
I paid for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think to kind of summarize that, there's probably never an ideal environment in real estate where you're going to time it perfectly. And everyone wants to operate in the safety zone of interest rates have come down, prices have come down, all the planets align perfectly, and it's just a killer deal. It's not to say that it doesn't exist, but it's typically a distressed property or something along those lines. And the cost of waiting from an investment standpoint or from a cost of living standpoint is really a compound. I mean, it doesn't get any better over time.
No, it doesn't. And truly, honestly, trying to time the housing market, both with interest rates and the housing prices, would be like trying to time when you're going to buy Apple stock, right? I mean,
or when a freight train starts to actually stop and then comes to a stop.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be awfully nice to know for sure next Wednesday at noon, Apple stock is going to be the lowest it's been in 5 years. I'm going to buy it and it's going to shoot up, but that's not realistic.
Yeah. Yep. So how can somebody get a hold of you if they're interested in refinancing, new purchase, or just kind of?
So our Phone number is 509-747-1300 or Chimney Rock Mortgage. We are on the web, but we're not that hard to find if you Google us.
Yep.
So
Yep. Very visible. So appreciate you guys watching this. And as promised, sticking around to the end, we're going to spend the next 3 hours talking about the NFC West. Football season's getting ready to start. I think there's probably 4 weeks until the regular season starts. As mentioned in the beginning of the video, I am a 49ers fan. I have been since I was 5, so don't accuse me of being a bandwagon fan. That's 36 years, in case you're wondering. And fortunately,
I'm a Seahawks fan.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Spokane. I have a friend of mine that's actually the tight ends coach for the Seahawks, so I'm actually even a little bit more interested in that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I think it's going to be a pretty solid division outside of the Cardinals.
Yeah, they seem to be a train wreck, don't they?
It was terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. It's like the bad new Bears, except for their...
Well, I don't know what Rams are we going to see. The Rams of 2 years ago or the Rams of last year?
I mean, personally, like, I think it's probably going to be 49ers at 12-5, Seahawks at 10-7.
Yeah, 10-7.
Rams at 9-8, and the Cardinals at like 4-13.
Yeah, I think if the Seahawks can get 11 wins out of this year, that'd be a pretty good win, make the playoffs. No. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if San Francisco only wins 12 games, you have to wonder what they're doing with their roster. As you and I have discussed, they have one of the best rosters in the football.
Yeah.
If they can figure out who their quarterbacks can be, which apparently last year it didn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, if it weren't for Josh Johnson like coming in and getting a concussion against the Eagles,
It might have won that game, right?
it might be number 6 sitting in the trophy stand. But yeah,
I think they split. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they both went on the road.
you know what's funny? I was just looking at tickets for when they're over in Seattle, and I think it's November or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Let's hope it becomes like a Sunday night game because they can flex those now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it's a good.
And it doesn't rain. Was it a Thursday night game that it was San Francisco and Seattle like 4 or 5 years ago, and there was like an hour and a half delay because of a tremendous thunder and lightning storm?
Yeah. I'm gonna go 2-0 just because that's just how I'm confident. November in Seattle and then December in Santa Clara. Yeah. Gino got paid, so
He seems still to be hungry.
yeah, he's got something to prove.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. As always, we appreciate you guys checking out the monthly newsletter. We are very active on social media through Spokane Home Guy, One Property Network. Chimney Rock is all over Google and the internet as well, on TV, and now,
Social media.
hopefully,
Yeah, social media.
yeah.
That's how I follow you.
So appreciate it. Appreciate all of you guys. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, either one of us anytime, and love to chat about real estate or football.
Yeah, either one.
Yeah. Thanks.